Listen close. Brace yourselves, because chilling new evidence in the disappearance of Lynette Hooker and her husband Brian has just pushed this entire mystery down a dark, terrifying path.
Look,
We all know the narrative spun for months, that Lynette tragically fell off their dinghy into the Black Ocean during what was supposed to be a dream Bahamas vacation.
But whatever story Brian sold to the police, and whatever you believed until today,
This explosive new update completely tears it apart.
Detectives recently bypassed the boat's primary systems and extracted secret files from a high-tech infrared security camera that logs human movement even in absolute pitch black.
this digital footprint completely catches Brian in a massive lie.
And changes everything.
Go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's dissect this evidence. Don't miss a single second of this, because what comes next is going to leave you speechless.
This concealed infrared camera was the first fatal blind spot in the husband's perfect alibi.
For weeks, he fed authorities a tragic story about how his wife fell off the dinghy when sudden 20-knot winds hit at sunset.
He claimed he desperately paddled with just one oar, fighting the sea for 7 grueling hours before hitting a nearby island to beg for rescue.
Yet the onboard security feed was quietly capturing a far different reality.
when federal agents from the Coast Guard Investigative Service
Seized their yacht named Soulmate, they went straight for the onboard electronics.
Cybersecurity experts cracked the encrypted layers of the marine chart plotters and those concealed security cameras. What they uncovered completely blew his timeline apart.
This digital trail proved that during the hours Brian claimed he was drifting helpless in a wild storm,
The luxury yacht never actually moved.
even more disturbing, GPS data showed the vessel had been sitting in a highly specific, remote corner of the Sea of Abaco. This location history flat out contradicted the search coordinates Brian fed to the local police on day 1.
By pointing them elsewhere,
Brian deliberately sent rescue divers and search planes miles away from where the yacht had actually stopped. He manufactured a fake search zone, keeping the real location hidden for nearly 2 months.
But why would any husband intentionally derail a search for his own missing wife?
the dark truth was buried in their family dynamic.
A far cry from the perfect travel vlogs they shared on their social media accounts.
While their followers envied a couple living their dream on the water, Lynette's daughter,
Carly knew exactly what was going on when the cameras were turned off. She soon approached the police with a chilling revelation about her stepfather's true nature.
Carly told federal agents that the picture-perfect life they flaunted on TikTok was a complete sham.
behind closed doors, the couple shared an incredibly volatile relationship.
One that turned violent whenever they started drinking.
She told the Coast Guard that her mother lived in constant terror of Brian's explosive temper. According to Carly, when Brian drank,
His rage took over completely, and he would make horrifying threats that left her mother trapped and helpless on that isolated yacht.
but those threats weren't just verbal.
Carly dropped a massive bombshell that completely shifted the focus of this homicide investigation.
She revealed that Brian had a terrifying, violent signature move whenever he snapped.
He didn't just strike people, he went straight for the neck.
Carly told investigators and national reporters that she had actually seen Brian choke his own daughter during a fit of pure rage.
Other close friends of Lynette soon backed up this chilling description,
warning her that it was highly dangerous to be alone with him on the boat. This history of domestic abuse made detectives realize that Lynette's sudden disappearance was probably no tragic boating accident. The chronological timeline pointed more to a cold, pre-planned execution than a tragedy caused by rough ocean currents. Investigators
Now suspected that Brian's explosive temper had finally taken over during that calm April night in the Bahamas.
pushing him to commit a horrific act that he could never take back.
Suspicions grew even darker as field reporters on the scene started interviewing the local islanders who had assisted Brian during those first crucial hours of the search.
Every witness recalled a chilling, complete lack of urgency in the husband's behavior.
He displayed absolutely no panic, no real desperation, and zero grief while his wife was allegedly drowning in the dark ocean.
Then, just as the Coast Guard started picking apart his alibi, Brian did the one thing guilty suspects do when the heat gets too intense. He suddenly packed up his things and fled the Bahamas, heading straight back to his hometown in Michigan.
He abandoned the active search area without a second thought. Just days after promising news crews he would stay on the islands until his missing wife was found.
His excuse was that his mother had suddenly fallen critically ill. But federal agents knew the timing was way too convenient. The walls were closing in, and the trap was about to snap shut.
While Brian hid in Michigan, the United States Coast Guard initiated a high-stakes tactical intercept. They tracked his yacht, the Soulmate, 40 nautical miles off the coast of Melbourne, Florida.
Armed federal agents boarded the vessel.
Out in open water, seizing it under a federal criminal warrant.
The luxury vessel was instantly cordoned off as an active crime scene, and the internal navigation systems were rushed directly to the FBI forensic lab in Quantico.
The newly recovered satellite data gave forensic dive teams a highly specific, narrow search grid in the Sea of Abaco. The Bahamian government quickly granted special permission for American divers to return to those tropical waters. This time, they weren't searching blindly. They targeted an undisturbed area exactly 25 feet deep. But searching an underwater graveyard 8 weeks after a suspected murder presents a terrifying race against time, even for the most experienced underwater search and recovery teams.
Forensic pathologists know that when a person drowns, the natural process of body refloating typically occurs within a few warm days. Natural gases expand within the remains, creating enough buoyancy to push them to the surface. But in the warm currents of the Bahamian Islands, if a victim never floats to the surface after 2 months, it means nature was interfered with.
It means her body was either weighted down to counter the natural buoyancy, or she never entered the ocean at all. Now, divers had to brace themselves for what lay waiting on the seabed. The specialist dive team prepped underwater propulsion vehicles to scan the seabed in tight, systematic grids.
In these warm tropical waters, recovering remains after 60 days is a grim, harrowing task.
Forensics experts admit that any soft tissue would be entirely gone by now,
lost to intense marine predation and rapid decomposition.
The divers knew they weren't searching for a recognizable person anymore.
They were scanning the white sand solely for skeletal remains and bones.
But as the deep-sea search continued, a dark new theory emerged from the forensic timeline. Detectives realized there was a massive, unexplained 9-hour gap from when Lynette allegedly went overboard from the Denki
to the exact moment Brian finally called the police to report her missing.
Even on a sluggish vessel sailing at low speeds, that 9-hour delay gives someone enough time to travel a vast distance across the open ocean. This massive delay means Brian could have sailed far beyond the active search grids.
He had plenty of time to weigh the body down in the crushing depths of the Gulf Stream, ensuring it would never surface.
Or worse, it means Lynette was murdered on dry land, and this whole boating accident was just a staged decoy. The digital dragnet is closing in on Brian in Michigan.
And those hidden infrared camera feeds might hold the key
to solving this grim mystery.